Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint a simple rose with a paintbrush, but we're not going to use the brush part of the paintbrush. I'm actually going to use a dotting tool, which is just a little tool with a rounded tip, but you could use the back end of a paintbrush. It's a very simple procedure, a little bit messy, a little bit abstract, but so fun. And we're going to make them into little cardboard hearts. I can't wait to show you how I do them. So we're going to create this heart, but more importantly, we're going to make these cute little hearts. And they're very simple to make. The heart is just appropriate. It can be any shape. I'm using just a piece of packaging here. This is a cardboard box I cut up. And then I'll use this as the cover of a journal. Or I can always back it, use it as a Valentine or a little thing to tuck in a card. It's just really precious. At the end of the video, I'll show you some variations using this exact same technique. Now, one of the claims to fame with this one is that it uses no paintbrush, just dotting tools. These are just tools with a rounded edge. If you don't have dotting tools, that's not a problem. Just look for paintbrushes or the ends of pens, something like this. Just a standard paintbrush has just the right size for the end. And just go through your paintbrushes or pens. You just want that rounded edge. You can even use a toothpick if you're making small enough hearts. So this is a really fun thing to do. I'm going to use this medium tool here just because it has a medium point and a smaller point as opposed to the really large ones or the really small ones. Next thing you'll need are your colors. I'm choosing 3 colors for each rose. I have a red, kind of a watermelon red. This is just acrylic paint. Very inexpensive acrylic paint. I've already set it out on my tray. So I have a red, a lighter version, which is a pink, and then a white for the highlight. And you can vary this to whatever colors you want. You want 3 colors, a very light, a medium, and a darker. You can do this with blue or purples or any colors really. And then for the leaves, I have 2 greens, again, a darker and a light. And then I like to embellish with additional light colors. I chose yellow, but other light colors, blue or anything, would work beautifully. And the last thing you need is your substrate. So here I just have cardboard. Now if you don't want the thick cardboard, which I think is beautiful, it comes in all these lovely colors, you can use a paper towel roll that you cut up. It'll be nice and thin. I just take it, slice it down the middle, and then I just have to press it. And I can use either side. You can use brown craft paper, or you can just paint this in a journal. I like the effect the paint has, the brightness it has against the dark craft color, but that's completely optional as well. So the first thing you do after you have your supplies is create your heart, whatever shape you want. I think I'm going to go with this dark color, just because I think that's intriguing. Now you could make a sketch of your heart, but I like them to be a little wonky. So a sketch is fine, but basically I just cut a V. See, it doesn't even come to a point. I can modify that, I can round the bottom, and then I just cut the tops. So I'll cut one arch, and then the other. And then I just fine tune it. It looks pretty good, maybe a little point up here. So I'll just trim that down. So now from here, to clean my tool, I just have a little rag or paper towel, and I'll just clean it off after I use it. So let's start by making one flower, and then I'll just show you the quick technique for filling it up. I'm going to take my medium-sized tool, as opposed to the smaller tool. Just use whichever size brush you want. And I dip it in my darkest color. And then I make an irregular shape. You can make a perfectly round shape. I'm just making kind of like a flowery shape here. It doesn't have to be perfect. Then I dip my brush. I can either clean it or just dip it into the next color, that lighter color. And now I just make some swirls in the direction that I want the flower to go, the petals to go. If it has too much of that pink, I'll go back in with the first color, the darker color, and just play around with it. Now this is a very wet flower, so it's not something that's going to dry immediately. I'll then just clear off my tool, and then I go in with a smaller tool. You can use a toothpick for this. I dip it in the white, and while it's wet, I just add a few little highlights. And again, if I added too many highlights, I'll dip it in that other color, dip it in the red, and just play around. And so I really like that. The next thing I want to do is create some leaves. So I just dip it in the darkest green, pull off a leaf here and here, get as many as you want. Then I take my smaller side, dip it in the lighter green, and add a little highlight. And so I have a single rose. Now you can play around with that however you like, and you can decide exactly how you want the flowers to go. You can make a ring of them, or just a few here and there. So I'll just paint a couple more, speed this up so you can see the process, but not get bogged down by all the time it takes to create it. And again, I like to use odd numbers of flowers. I just think that's pretty. I also like to vary the size of the flowers that I make. So now, instead of filling in all the area with the hearts, I have a little bit of a heart cluster up here and a little one down here. You can stop here if you like and just have your heart, or let it dry. I like to add some little dots. I'm going to start with the yellow, and you'll see how this color really looks beautiful up against that background. So I'm just filling in some areas of the yellow just to lead the eye in the direction I want it to go. I can fill it in a little more too here and there. And then I take my smaller side and just add a few little ones just to really finish it off. And the last thing I like to do is add a little bit of white, and that just ties in the highlights with some of these little dots. And the dots seem to almost disappear in the background, but they just add a little bit of brightness to the piece, which I love. So that's how that looks. Now after it dries, you'll have a beautiful little heart embellishment for your journal, for even a tree. If you put a little hole in it and hang it on, you have an ornament. It's quite lovely. Now let me show you some variations as well. So we have the one we made, and then the original. I have an even smaller one on a very thin piece of packaging here. A larger one where I run around the perimeter, filling it with those little hearts, which I think are so precious. And then a super large one. I punched a hole in here, and this is ready to be hung in the window. I think it's beautiful. I love the simpleness of these flowers, and the color really shines through. Now let me show you one variation where I painted it onto a used tea bag. The tea bag was dried, and then I just painted, and this will make beautiful ephemera for my journals. Same technique, and then you have something just a little bit different. So that's how you paint roses without a brush, or at least not the brush end of the brush. So that's how I create the cardboard hearts with the simple little roses. They're adorable, and the colors can be varied. Just choose 3 colors that you like. Choose a family of colors, purples or blues or pinks or oranges, and you'll get a lovely result. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And thank you for joining me today.